All right, so now we're on day 2 of proving and applying theorems about lines and angles. Learning goals for this part: you're going to use your prior knowledge about angle congruence to complete a proof, and you're going to use your prior knowledge about angle theorems to determine the missing measures of angles. All right, so here you're going to be writing them completely from scratch. And we're going to kind of walk you through here. And notice that I have this one in, and that's because you're given this. And remember, whatever you're given is always going to be your first statement, and the reason is always going to be given. Okay, this, whatever you're trying to prove, that's always going to be your last statement. So if you ever write anything but this in your last line, it's unfortunately incorrect. The reasons are going to vary. You can't put reason prove. You're going to have a reason for it, but we'll get to that when we cross that bridge. So anyway, next step. So let's focus on what we're given. We're told that, let me change the color here real quick, which apparently I can't. We're told that HFG, so this angle right here, is congruent to angle ABF. All right, so we're given that. That means that these lines are parallel. If corresponding angles are congruent, then those lines are parallel. Just something to remember. You're not going to have to give that as a reason in this one. Okay. Next, notice that we're trying to prove, and if you ever get stuck, look at what you're trying to prove. We're trying to prove something about BFE. Okay, ABF is in the given. BFE is not. So we're going to be trying to prove something about this in here, this angle. So remember how I said to name it. So you start with the first letter, go to the second letter, go to the third letter. So we're trying to prove something about this angle. And we need to show that for our proof that ABF, this angle, is congruent to this angle. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to say that HFG is congruent to BFE, and hopefully you can remember that that's because vertical angles are congruent. Now that we know that this is congruent to this, we can say that BFE is congruent to ABF, which is basically just this written backwards, but because they're congruent, the order doesn't necessarily matter. And the reason for that's going to be the transitive property. So remember, because we basically said that these two are congruent, these two are congruent, so we have our pair, which leaves us with this and this. So that's the transitive property. All right, next example. We need to find the measure of angle x. So this is what we're trying to find the measure of. Please note that the diagram is not to scale. So again, we're using what we know about the different types of parallel lines, and we know they're parallel because they have this marking on there. So these lines are parallel, and we're going to take what we know about angle measures there. All right. So we know that these three angles, because they're on a straight line, add up to 180. So if we can figure out what this angle is, then we can just add that and subtract that total from 180, and that'll give us the measure of angle x. So if we say, okay, well, this is 45, so this angle also has to be 45 right there. We know these lines are parallel, so this and this right here are corresponding angles. So we also know that that angle is 45. Okay, because they're corresponding angles. So all we have to do is take 60 plus 45, which is 105, and then subtract that total from 180, which is going to give us 75. So the measure of angle x is 75 degrees. So again, this is going to be something that you'll need to practice with. You'll have plenty of examples to do in class. You'll have reviews. So you will get the hang of it. Don't worry about that. But that's all we have for today. Nice short video. So have a good one. And we are halfway through this key concept already. So test is